Okay, so if you feel like the fundamental nature of work, learning, creativity, maybe everything, has just shifted dramatically these last couple of years, you are absolutely tuned in to the right frequency today.
That feeling is pretty widespread, I think.
Right. So we're diving deep into the sources today, trying to quickly map this landscape of what a lot of tech thinkers are now calling the cognitive revolution. Our mission really is to grab the key insights, get a handle on the scale, and maybe especially the speed of this transformation. Hopefully you walk away feeling a bit more prepared for this world where intelligence itself seems to be getting redefined.
Yeah, prepared is the goal, informed at least.
We've had these huge, era-defining shifts before. We talk about the agricultural revolution that anchored societies, then the industrial revolution, mechanizing physical work,
Right, mechanizing capacity.
and then the digital age, which we've all just lived through.
Yeah.
That felt like it was mostly about connection, information storage.
Connecting billions, accessing data.
But the material we've been digging into suggests that what's unfolding right now is, well, fundamentally different from all of those.
It really does seem to be a different category of change.
This isn't just faster computers or, bigger hard drives. It feels like it's about machines actively reshaping human thought.
That's the core idea, yeah.
Okay, so let's try and unpack this then. In the most concrete terms possible, what exactly is the critical distinction between the digital age we just sort of finished and this new cognitive revolution?
Well, what's fascinating, I think, is the sheer shift in the dimension being augmented. The digital age, think early internet, mobile phones, social media, that was primarily about extending our reach and our memory. It gave us access to just unprecedented amounts of data, right?
Yeah.
And instantly connected billions of people. Huge change.
Absolutely huge.
The cognitive revolution, though, shifts the focus. It moves from simply storing information to actively augmenting and reshaping intelligence itself.
Intelligence itself.
Wow. Machines are now becoming co-creators. They're not just tools for storing what we already know. They're becoming tools for generating new knowledge, new ideas,
Yeah.
entirely new ways of thinking, potentially.
So, okay, it's like we've moved from just getting better answers faster to being helped to ask fundamentally better questions, maybe, or getting help with the first draft of an answer.
Precisely. That's a great way to put it. If you look at an application right now, say, using a large language model to write some complex code or generate detailed design options for a product.
Yeah, things people use every day now.
Exactly. The machine isn't just spitting back stored information, it's synthesizing, it's structuring, it's offering genuinely novel solutions that often require far less human input to get started. It's almost like it's automating the first draft of thought and that automation of idea generation. That's what makes this truly cognitive.
And we are seeing the proof of it. I mean, the proof is everywhere, isn't it? Which I think is what makes the speed so unsettling for so many people. It's not abstract theory anymore.
Not at all. It's very tangible.
We're seeing these powerful generative AI models already in our hands, right? The sources, detailed tools that can write code that previously took mid-level programmers weeks to write.
Significant productivity jumps.
Or generating entirely new hypothetical medicines, discovering new materials, science possibilities, even tutoring a child conversationally in a language the human tutor doesn't speak fluently themselves.
Right.
This isn't theoretical stuff for 10 years down the road. This is happening now. It's standard operating procedure in some fields already.
And that speed you mentioned. It's not just an incidental feature. It seems to be the defining characteristic of this revolution.
More so than the capability itself, almost.
In some ways, yes. Unlike past major shifts, where the timeline for fundamental change might span, 50 years or more, the pace of AI development is genuinely shocking. Governments, institutions, everyone, globally. And the reason for this speed is absolutely critical. The technology is recursive.
Okay, hang on. Recursive. Here's where it gets really interesting, right? Because that self-amplifying nature means we literally cannot measure this change by our old linear standards. It breaks the old models.
Absolutely. You've nailed it. The acceleration is baked into the technology itself. There's an observation from tech thinkers Asa Raskin and Tristan Harris that truly hammers this home.
Oh yeah, what's that?
They said, nukes don't make stronger nukes. AI makes stronger AI.
Whoa.
Think about that for a second. The technology itself is inherently capable of improving its own capabilities, which means the next iteration isn't just a bit better, it arrives faster too. The cycle speeds up.
Okay, wait. If the technology is truly recursive like that, how on earth can we expect human-paced governance, Our laws, our political processes, our education reforms, how can they ever keep up? Isn't that like trying to catch a fighter jet on a bicycle?
That right there is the central tension of this whole cognitive revolution, and it leads us directly to the core concept that the sources really focus on, the pacing
The
gap.
pacing gap.
Okay, the pacing gap is exactly what you described. It's the growing distance between that exponentially rising innovation curve driven by recursive AI development and our much slower human-paced systems that are supposed to govern and adapt to that technology. Law, policy, education.
So we've got this massive widening gulf. The tech is maybe doubling in capability every year or every 18 months, whatever the curve is. But our legal systems, our school curricula, they still move at the speed of a committee meeting, right?
That's a pretty accurate picture, unfortunately.
And the sources frame this pacing gap as potentially the defining tension of this entire century.
Could well be, because it creates enormous instability.
Sure.
To give you a really practical example of this pacing gap in action,
Or
think about data privacy and ownership.
okay.
Current laws, like GDPR in Europe or some state laws in the US, they were designed largely to govern the Web 2.0 giants, right? Facebook, Google. The transaction was fairly explicit. You exchange your data for their services.
Yeah, we sort of understood that bargain, mostly.
But now, these foundation models, they ingest and synthesize just vast amounts of public and sometimes private human data in ways that those existing legal frameworks simply didn't anticipate. It wasn't designed for that model.
Right, they weren't trained on my specific input in the same way.
Exactly. So it raises these profound questions about authorship, compensation, consent. Questions our current laws are just ill-equipped to answer effectively.
Right.
Our laws are maybe a decade behind the tech they're supposed to regulate.
And it's not just big policy stuff, right? It affects individual careers, too. Think about education.
Point.
We might be teaching skills right now that could be largely obsolete in 2 or 3 years because of automated AI co-pilots, yet curriculum reforms. They take 5, maybe 10 years to fully design and roll out nationally.
The cycle times are completely mismatched.
So that pacing gap means our societal guardrails, our education systems, our safety nets, they're constantly playing catch up. They're always reacting, never anticipating.
And that's the high-stakes conflict presented in the source material. Will we just sort of allow algorithms to develop without strong guardrails, which carries huge risks of deepening inequalities, accelerating social disruption, eroding trust? Or do we collectively try to steer this revolution, steer it toward a future that intentionally elevates human dignity, creativity, resilience? It's a choice we are actively making right now, whether we realize it or not.
It really sounds like the moment we realize we just can't afford to be purely reactive anymore. If the machines are genuinely out-sprinting us on certain tasks, maybe the opportunity isn't in competing head-to-head on speed or processing power.
That seems like a losing game in the long run.
Right. Maybe it's about doubling down on and leveraging what makes us distinctly human.
Absolutely. And that's where the resource material pivots, shifting the focus a bit from anxiety about the gap towards agency and navigating it.
Agency, okay.
If the cognitive revolution is fundamentally about augmenting intelligence, then we need to define and strengthen the uniquely human elements of intelligence, the parts that AI, at least in its current form, cannot replicate. We need new cognitive tools, essentially.
Okay, so what are those essential cognitive tools? Because this sounds like the framework for navigation. This is highly relevant for anyone listening who's thinking, okay, what skills should I be prioritizing right now to thrive or just survive in this new landscape?
Exactly. The framework proposes 4 sort of necessary cognitive lenses, not just for policymakers, but really for every professional trying to keep pace and shape how this unfolds.
4 lenses. Okay, what's the first one?
The first is systems thinking. This is becoming crucial. When AI automates a task, its ripple effects are way more complex than they first appear.
Right, it's not just one job disappearing.
No. Systems thinking is needed to move beyond just solving the immediate problem, like, say, job losses in one specific sector, and to actually see how that automation impacts related supply chains, regional infrastructure, social safety nets, community identity, the whole interconnected web.
Okay, so instead of just reacting to, say, truck drivers losing jobs, you'd model the impact on truck stops, roadside diners, logistics networks, maybe even tax revenues for highways before you push for massive automation. It's anticipating those second and third order consequences.
Precisely. It's moving from thinking in straight lines, linear causality, to thinking in networks and feedback loops. That's systems thinking.
Got it. What's number 2?
Second, we need emotional intelligence, or EI. Now, this might sound like a soft skill, but the argument is it's becoming incredibly critical for governance and just navigating this algorithmic age.
Why EI specifically? How does that connect?
Well, think about it. As systems become more complex and opaque, the famous black box problem with AI trust naturally erodes. People get nervous when they don't understand how decisions affecting them are being made.
Ah, okay, that's a powerful connection. So EI isn't just about being nice, it's about managing the social disruption caused by the technological disruption. It rebuilds trust.
Exactly. Emotional intelligence helps preserve empathy, build trust, maintain genuine human connection, and that might be the only real antidote to the opacity and potential fragmentation that hyper-efficient but perhaps inscrutable algorithms can introduce.
So we need EI to handle the human side of automation disruption to make sure dignity stays central. Makes sense. Okay, third lens.
Third is strategic foresight. This is about planning for the future, but maybe not in the way we usually think about it.
How so? If everything's moving so fast, how can we plan ahead effectively?
Well, we need to stop just predicting the next quarterly earnings or the next iPhone model, which is really just iteration on the present. Strategic foresight means actively modeling multiple potential futures.
Multiple futures, like scenario planning.
Exactly. Good ones, bad ones, weird ones. Based on different choices we might make today about policy, ethics, and where the technology could go. It's the opposite of just extending today's trend lines out. It means asking those challenging what-if questions. What if AI achieves general intelligence much faster than we think? What if deepfakes completely destroy trust in online media within 5 years? We need to scenario plan for these more extreme but plausible outcomes, not just the comfortable middle ground.
I can see how that leads right into the fourth lens then, because having foresight isn't much use unless you actually act on it, right?
Precisely. The final lens is anticipatory governance. This is the practical application of that foresight. It's about creating the legal, ethical, and policy frameworks that can guide the technology proactively before crises hit, not just reactively afterwards.
Proactive, not reactive. Can you give an example?
Sure. Think about the difference. Reactive policy is what we often do now. We respond to a major social media scandal or a big data breach with new legislation after the damage is done.
Right, closing the barn door after the horse is bolted.
Anticipatory governance, by contrast, would mean setting up things like ethical testing environments, regulatory sandboxes for AI development, or mandatory transparency standards for autonomous systems years before they become widespread in the public sphere.
So it's like establishing the rules of the road and the safety features before the super fast cars are actually sold to everyone. You allow the innovation, but within safer, defined ethical boundaries.
That's the idea. Build the guardrails early, allowing innovation to proceed more safely and responsibly.
Okay, so this whole framework systems thinking, emotional intelligence, strategic foresight, and anticipatory governance, it really shifts the conversation, doesn't it?
It attempts to, yes.
The solution isn't about trying to fight the technology or outcompute the machines. It's about learning how to steer the ship using these uniquely human abilities that AI, well, by its current definition anyway, simply doesn't possess.
It reframes the human advantage, exactly. Our value proposition in this new era isn't necessarily in processing vast data sets faster, but maybe in our ability to synthesize consequences across complex systems, manage human relationships and trust, imagine and evaluate multiple futures, and create wise systems that guide innovation responsibly.
So, pulling it all together, what does this all mean for us? The synthesis from these sources seems to be that this cognitive revolution, it's not some external inevitable fate that's just passively happening to us.
It feels much more active than that.
It feels like a monumental journey that we are collectively authoring right now through the thousands of decisions we're making every day about innovation, equity, ethics.
That's a good summary. The stress point we talked about, that pacing gap, is also our biggest opportunity in a way. Because the decisions we make today in our businesses, our schools, our communities, our governments, those decisions will likely determine whether this new age becomes one of massive human empowerment and flourishing, or potentially one of profound social fragmentation and risk. It's a really clear call to think differently and to act with intention and purpose.
And so as we close out this deep dive, we really want to leave you with that simple but incredibly urgent question that the source material itself poses for reflection. It feels like the highest level thought to carry forward from all this. What kind of future do we actually want to build when intelligence itself becomes a shared endeavor between humans and machines?